hope you are fine and preparing for your first test. Before you write first test, we want to share some of the things which you should take in consideration and you should keep in your mind, so that at initial stage itself you avoid some pitfalls which generally, let's say, candidates get trapped in ethics paper. The most important concern in ethics paper remains that are you writing an ethical answer? Since it is ethics, when you write a mechanical answer, when you write deliberately a mechanical answer or ready-made answer, it will be known. And it will be easily noticed by examiner, and then you know that in ethics you end up becoming unethical. So the question remains that are you going to write an ethical answer which also tests your own ethical, let's say that standards, your own, let's say, sincerity, and what we say later an spirit side. So your own spirit side which is reflected in your content of the answer. So some of the things which you should, let's say that try to know. The fundamentals, what are those fundamentals of this paper which you should know that. So I have just written so that I can minimize time and we can share it. So you know that this in ethics paper we can categorize questions into three categories, three types. Questions can be concept based, which can test your conceptual understanding, and they are having more leaning towards concept, theory. This you can say, like say they can ask, when a question is asked on the difference between ethics and morality, or let's say that what do you understand by emotional intelligence. So that is a very theoretical question. When it is a theoretical question, it demands that you should have a very precise understanding of what is ethics, what is morality, what is integrity, what are human values, or let's say that what is attitude, emotional intelligence. Here we try to focus on preciseness. It should be exactly what they are asking, that is how you should care. Hence, when you are reading any notes, so you should take into consideration that whether conceptually you are able to explain a particular, let's say that term, a particular philosophy, or the syllabus, let's say topics. That way we can say. Then applied questions will find. Questions, if you see last year, the first three questions of 2022, they are applied in nature. Or even question which was related to e-governance, digitalization, that was also applied question. Applied question is related to any, let's say that development, any situation, which let's say demands also your understanding about applied aspect. In this, there is a less concept aspect, more applied aspect. That is how last year the first three questions, or it can be related to any such administrator, a civil servant, or society. Let's say like even attitude question was asked once. What are the causes of conflict? What are the causes for people having conflictual attitude? So it deals with applied situation. An applied answer demands, let's say, a different orientation from this. Here you have to write in more applied way by depicting this or that type of example scenario. There you have to explain the concept, definition and conceptual explanation that we can consider. Then the third category of question we say is related to philosophical statements. And those philosophical statements, if you see, like say I have written one statement, an unexamined life is not worth living. That statement was of Socrates given. Already it has been also asked. Now how you should answer this question? This, which will focus on later stage when we say. Then you need to, let's say that any answer will consist of, when we start any answer, so you can start with any quote, any philosophy, any punchline. That can be also, let's say that introduction, or you can have a direct introduction. You can have direct introduction. Direct in the sense what do you understand by emotional intelligence? So you can simply write emotional intelligence deals with regulation of human emotions. So that way it can be considered, let's say. So direct beginning can also be there. A quote you can start, do not do unto others as you won't be done by, or we can forgive, we cannot forgive only. Strong can forgive. Any, let's say, philosophy, since it is ethics paper, you will have lots of quotations. You can see from last year papers also. Quotations you can gather and you can write as per the suitable, let's say, statement. Yes, if it is related to any asking what do you understand, so it is not needed to write quotations. So some questions will demand quotation, some questions will not demand quotation. Then let's say it is theory and practice. Body, let's say that it is theory and practice, like say emotional intelligence. What do we understand by emotional intelligence and how we can improve emotional intelligence in civil servants? Suppose this is the question. So how can we improve emotional intelligence in civil servants? So simply you can define the first part of the answer is definition part, which is also concept part. Then you have to, let's say, talk about emotional intelligence. How emotional intelligence? So emotional intelligence has basically 4 characteristics. That you can write the 4 characteristics. Then you can say how emotional intelligence is learned. How we learn and improve emotional intelligence. It can be process of socialization. It can be the learning technique, or let's say that marshmallow experiment, that can be. And whether we can apply in civil services, means whether how civil servants can learn those things. So we can apply in civil services context, let's say that during training program, and once they are posted, let's say in posting, when in organization, in organizational context, we can talk how we can. So they can be given different tasks, different situations we need to learn. So there are different techniques for improving emotional intelligence. It means you apply it by giving some examples. Also you will give some examples, let's give, which can help in improving their emotional intelligence. So it can be, let's say, when you give rewards on time, that you can say reduce stress on them, the de-stressing techniques. So some of the techniques which have been adopted by the government, including sensitive training practice. So you have to relate mission karm yogi. So you have to relate some of the things which can be considered as theory and practice. This, and then you end with any philosophy, any quote. Now it is related to emotional intelligence. Since it is related to civil services, so there may not necessarily be a philosophy, let's say, or still you can end up with a philosophy when you talk there. If you talk, so philosophy, let's say that good character. So we can talk about virtue ethics. And in virtue ethics, Aristotle talks about Aristotle will talk about character. And what they talk character? Character has justice. Character has this called courage, temperance, and wisdom. Just I was trying to show how we can end even in emotional intelligence question related philosophy. So just to give example, now we can write Aristotle, and this temperance is an important part of character, virtue. So that can be even written in this, and we can say if we are able to enhance emotional intelligence in civil servants, then they will be able to build a good character which even has been emphasized by Greek philosopher like Aristotle. Yes. And that is how we can end with this. So when we write any answer in this ethics paper, so as per the, let's say, as we have defined that there are 3 questions. As per the category of questions also it will be, but a general standard, a general structure will be like this. We can start with quote or direct. We can explain concept and write some practices, give examples, and then we can end up with any quote. Now the question is how much you should follow. See, practice, examples. So there should be a balance. What is balance? It depends on nature of question. It is difficult to say here, but you should write adequate this, and that should be also adequate. You should not write imbalanced way. Either let's say that too much focus on, let's say, this example, too little on theory. It should also be not like this, that we say that. So should not focus in that way. Rather, we need to have focus like this. So too much of example, let's say that too much of theory, this example, this you can say that theory, example, theory, example. We need to have a balance, right? Balance approach. Too much of example is not good answer. Too much of theory is also not good answer. This, that way you should understand, and that is how in the end we can add any such philosophy, if at all we have, for which you plan also. So you can plan your answer, plan philosophy, plan examples, plan quotes, like that, and that way we can say that intro, body, and conclusion. This is how it can be the answer. Then let's take next thing what we have to talk. That 7 tests that you are going to appear. So the 7 tests which you are going to appear, they are prepared in this order. This. So it will be in this order. The 7 test, although we keep not, let's say that, it is going to be most difficult. And basically 6th test we keep as the most difficult test, you can need to know that. It goes in this way. Although first test, let's say that question basically theory section. I don't want to predict about nature of questions, but our approach is to keep first test simple, let's say that, then gradually improve on second, third and fourth test. These are basically random questions we give. Random questions we try to bring, not follow syllabus necessarily, all those random questions which we can think and we can ask. Here we follow syllabus. We will give you as per the syllabus topics to test your conceptual understanding, syllabus understanding. Do you understand emotional intelligence? Do you understand probity in governance, corporate governance, morality, ethics? So do you have conceptual understanding? So this is a kind of brainstorming, warming up, let's say that. Then it is a kind of testing your knowledge. Now let's say you can see yourself. If you are not good at this knowledge level, you will learn through model answer discussion. You will try to improve yourself. And then finally, let's say we have the mocks. The mocks, let's say that, which we'll try to ask as per what UPSC standard, and this is how the challenge, let's say. If you are improving, let's say that your score is gradually improving, so you are doing better. This you can say. And people have done better, you know that. We have been fortunately getting our students highest this year 141, then 132, I guess, whatever. So it remains, people have done it, people are securing it. So this way we can consider this, let's say that tests, the 7 tests nature you will find. Then next thing is that, let's say the time allocation. So how you should, let's say that allocate time. We think that as per our standard, generally we think 1.5, let's say 1 hour 20 minutes you should give for theory section, and let's say 0.4 means 1 hour 40 minutes you should give for this, you can say, case study section. Why? Case studies will take more time. Case studies will take more time and they will take less time. If you are good in theory section, it takes less time in attempting those questions. And if you are, let's say, a case study is being good or bad, that does not matter. If you see nowadays the way length of the case studies, it's huge, so it takes time. And from the very beginning, we will say that we will also give case studies. If you see the case studies, we do not compromise. We try to build your habit of writing long and let's say that lengthy case studies. That way we can say, and that is how you should follow. Although again it depends on individual to individual, but Our approach is like this, that we ideally say you give 1 hour 20 minutes for theory section, 1 hour 40 minutes for case studies. Then as far as case study structure is concerned, structure you can write introduction. And now again introduction can be, let's say that you can start different things in introduction, which I can tell shortly. I will tell you thereafter, and then you can have A, whatever the option given, B and C. This. And then you can write conclusion. In conclusion here also you necessarily write conclusion or you write way forward. And in this way forward you try to bring any philosophy, the way we were talking about theory section. An intelligent candidate is one who can even incorporate some of the theoretical question thinkers name quotations in ethics case studies answers. Because in ethics theoretical question you will have some quotations which can be relevant for your case studies. That way also you use knowledge and knowledge begets knowledge. That is how it can happen. And then finally, let's say some commands in case study. Broadly, we'll talk two types of commands we have. One command we say is basically, let's say the command if you take. So one command you can see is called course of action. Course of action means you have to write step by step. So you don't have to write options. This is how from the test 1 try to follow. Don't write options. Rather you write step by step actions, one after another. These are nothing but discuss the number of steps taken by the government, taken in that situation. This you can say. And then you write your justification, or if they are asking you discuss reasons for that, the reasons can also be written, let's say that at one point rather than for each and every, let's say, course of action. That can be. Critically evaluate when the option is there. So you have to write pros and cons. Basically, critically evaluate has become last year, let's say, option. Means last year question instruction. And it used to be, let's say that in past, but it was only evaluate. So here, let's say that you can focus on talking about when critically evaluate is given. So you have to write, if there are 3 options, you have to write options. And each option can be written in terms of pros and cons. So that is how you have to follow in brief related to this aspect. Then let me just tell that introduction aspect of the case study. So introduction of case studies. So when you write introduction of case studies, so in this you should know that in case studies introduction, it can start with so many things. There is stakeholder approach, then you can start with any, let's say that view, any values that you can start. If option does not have ethical issues, you can start the ethical issues in the case studies. You can start with this, or let's say that any philosophy you can start related to this case study, or you can start with any, let's say, context if it is current affairs based. If it is related to current affairs, let's say case study is related to any current recent developments. So that recent development, like say disaster, etc. So that can itself become context of your introduction. Means introduction you can write about this. Recently it was observed like this and that. And after writing this, you can come to options given A, B, C, D. That is how you should, let's say, care. Then one more thing I have to tell is statement based, philosophical statement. Philosophical statements. If you take philosophical statement, so what we find is in this philosophical statement, so it can be, let's say, there are 2 types. One, to known philosophers, and let's say others. Others, let's say Lincoln. So Lincoln is not a philosopher, no? He can be a leader. The leader, you may not know much about that leader. So you can write about a statement, less about leader. But when let's say there are normative theories, there are normative theories which can start with Greek philosophy, Kant, deontology, teleology, and if their statements are given, Aristotle, Kant, Bentham, that we can say Plato, Socrates, their statement is given. Vivekananda, Buddha, if their statements are given. So you have to link with their philosophy also. You have to link with their philosophy, and then let's say that you have to write. This. Do not write in beginning, don't write in beginning. In beginning, if it has been given of a statement of a Plato, don't start with Mahatma Gandhi. Don't start with Vivekananda. Because already a philosopher name is given. You need to start with the philosophy given. Explain the philosophy, relate with any example, relate with practical situation, see whether there can be thesis, counter thesis, pros, cons of that statement, and then you conclude it. In conclusion, you can relate with any other philosopher. So that should be the approach, let's say that when you have to write, attempt your test papers, and we expect that you will learn from this, and you'll improve. Although the real test starts when you start writing your tests, and real evaluation and learning start thereafter. Because then let's say that when each discussion will be taken, there your answers you have written, and then the weaknesses will be told. Then it will be also suggested what you could have written in that. So that results into actual learning, and there we will explain you this. We'll explain because then your answer will be there. So by that way you will learn better. So when test one discussion will happen, that will benefit more than what we have told here, because these are some hypothetical, and let's say that some of the fundamentals which you should try to learn, incorporate while writing your tests. So let's see, and let's face for this year, let's face the challenge of UPSC. So all the best.